Good evening. I'd like to call to order the May 9th, 2023 Old Bridge Township Council meeting. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence and our prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As customary in this chamber, we stand for a moment to remember those who are protecting our freedoms, both here and abroad, for our first responders, for those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and tonight for those who were killed in the mass shooting. A moment of silence, please. Our prayer, Mr. Pasquetti.
O Lord, bless the servants in the ministry of public affairs who serve thee in this chamber. Give us quiet minds and hearts when we hear your voice. Help us to know when to speak, when to be silent. Give us strength to oppose the wrong, uphold the right, and grant that we have a good conscience and soul peace with thee and with one another. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please be seated.
This meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice has been given to the official newspapers of the Township on January 6, 2023, and has been posted in public places. Next open public meeting of the Township Council will be held on Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, at 7:30 p.m. Roll call, Council President.
Please.
Let the record reflect that Councilperson DeCaro is absent. Councilperson DePalma.
Here.
Councilperson Desai.
Here.
Councilperson Garcia.
Here.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli. Here. Let the record reflect Councilperson Murphy is absent. Councilperson Pasquetti.
Here.
Councilperson Walker. Here. Council President Sohar.
Here. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Kate. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. Our first thing will be proclamations. Proclamation declaring May Older Americans Month. Mayor Henry.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Council President. Established in 1963, Older Americans Month is celebrated every May. Led by the Administration for Community Living, Older Americans Month is a time for us to acknowledge the contributions and achievements of older Americans, highlight important trends, and strengthen our commitment to honoring our older citizens. This year's theme, Aging Unbound, offers an opportunity to explore a wide range of aging experiences and to promote the importance of enjoying independence and fulfillment by paving our own paths as we age. We have some ways we can all participate in Aging Unbound. Embrace the opportunity to change. Find a new passion. Go on an adventure and push boundaries by not letting age define your limits. Invite creativity and purpose to your life by trying new activities in your community to bring in more growth, joy, and energy. Explore the rewards of growing older. With age comes knowledge, which provides insight and confidence to understand and experience the world more deeply. Continue to grow that knowledge through reading, listening, classes, and creative activities. Stay engaged in your community. Everyone benefits when everyone is connected and involved. Stay active by volunteering, working, mentoring, participating in social clubs, taking part in activities at your local senior center or elsewhere in the community. This May, join us as we recognize 60-year anniversary of Older Americans Month and challenge the narrative, and I'll say growing old here in Old Bridge. So tonight's proclamation I have for Older Americans Month, whereas Old Bridge Township includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their time, wisdom, and experience to our community. Communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds have the opportunity to participate and live independently. Old Bridge Township recognizes the need to create a community that offers the services and support older adults may need to make choices about how they age. Old Bridge Township can work to build an even better community for our older residents by not limiting our thinking about aging, exploring and combating stereotypes, emphasizing the many positive aspects of aging, inspire older adults to push past traditional boundaries, and embracing our community's diversity. Now, therefore, I, Owen Henry, Mayor of the Township of Old Bridge, do hereby proclaim May 2023 to be Older Americans Month. I urge every resident to celebrate our older citizens, help create an inclusive society, and accept the challenge of flexible thinking around aging. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Mayor. Our bill list, Mrs. Walker.
Accounts payable, May 9th, 2023, $16,068,994.03. Payroll, April 28th, 2023, $1,224,204.15. Payroll overtime, April 28th, 2023, $21,537.77.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. De Palma. And Mr. Shaw, can we have a breakdown of the overtime, please?
Thank you, Council President. As Councilwoman Walker indicated, total overtime for this pay period was $21,537.77. There is an uptick in silver lining for disco night on April 21st. It was a good event, and it was worth spent. For the police officer, the sworn officer overtime was $10,665.26. Deduct grant, $1,489.52. Deduct ETO, $2,841.75. Deduct accreditation cost, $859.13. The net overtime is $5,474.86, representing 100 man and women hours. There were 2 officers injured on duty or on light duty. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Roll call. Councilperson De Palma.
Yes.
Councilperson Desai.
Yes.
Councilperson Garcia.
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes.
Councilperson Paskiddy.
Yes.
Councilperson Walker.
Yes.
Council President Sohar.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Public hearing, adoption minutes, ordinance for second reading. H1, ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge to rezone certain property to be included in the R120 zoning district and to amend the township zoning map accordingly. Good evening. I'm going to open it up to the public, and I'm going to have Ms. Svant do first a little presentation with the mayor. Good evening.
Good evening, Council.
Is that mic working?
Sorry about that. Good evening, Council. Council, as you know, we are here for H2, the ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge to rezone certain property to be included in the R120 zoning district and to amend the township zoning map accordingly. As you know, Council, that is a function that you serve as council. You set the zoning here in town. You are the ones who create the zoning map. So we are here tonight. Vina is going to make a presentation about a change that we would like to see. Mark, if you want to chip in and
I think at this point, before we go to public, just have Vina go through a report she prepared in support of the zone change, and then we'll go to public comment. Yep.
Good evening, Council. Tonight, we are here for a rezoning of the property, also known as Block 23,001, Lot 9.11. And as you may recall, last year, around the same time of the year, the administration had directed me to look at other areas within the township to see which ones have potential for redevelopment, or if there are underutilized parcels within the township that need some sort of planning attention. So at that time, we went and updated our master plan reexamination report. There were numerous recommendations added, including considering redevelopment of landfill sites. We have the global landfill, we have Summerside, there was Route 35 corridor, and then there was large underutilized parcels such as the subject property. So I'll just begin with just giving you a little background zoning-wise, the history of the property, what I reviewed in terms of infrastructure, and why we came to this conclusion. So to begin with, the subject property contains a single lot and is approximately 280 acres, and this is one parcel. It's currently zoned as ST5, a Special Development District, and it has an overlay. Almost 50% of the property has, and as you all know, there's an airport on the site. It has the airport hazard area overlay. And the property surrounding this property on all sides is R120 residential, except for one parcel that is located to the northeast side, which is the township-owned parcel, and that is zoned as ER. It has significant environmental constraints and has been zoned like that. Next, I want to talk about the history of this property. So I started, obviously, by looking at historic aerials to see how the property was developed. And it appears that prior to the mid-60s, this whole area was farmland and woodland. The property actually, a portion of it was developed in the mid-1960s, but surrounding that was all residential zone. It was, at that time, it was zoned R80, the surrounding properties. This property was zoned as M1 industrial zone. Now, that raises some concern. I don't know, I mean, I'm curious, or rather, I can say that probably at that time it was spot zone. And I say that because if you look at the 1970s zoning map, which was the first Madison Township zoning map, the M1 zone, there used to be an SD zone at that time too. But M1 zone and SD zone, if you look at the zoning map, was all laid around Route 9 and along Chesapeake, Bordentown area. This was the only zone that was, kind of separate and for the subject, created for the subject property. Later on, in 1976, the zoning map was updated. It was, the classification was changed from M1 industrial to special development SD5. Again, most of the SD zones were located along Route 9 and in the currently Runyon area and nowhere else. So I'm certain that it was probably spot zoned at that time. In the report, you will see that I have included the 1970 zoning map and the 1976 zoning map to give you an idea. So now this property has been zoned as SD5 for the last 50 years. However, the surrounding land use patterns have changed dramatically. What used to be woodlands before now have slowly evolved to be residential properties. Around this property on Pension Road, there are residential uses, a few scattered commercial uses which are existing non-conformities. And then along Old Bridge English Town Road, or CR 527, which is a county road, you see pockets of commercial uses which are in the current EDO 1 zone. But surrounding this property is all residential. Now, this property also abuts Manalapan Old Bridge municipal boundary. If you look at the other side, on Manalapan side, Again, before the mid-90s, it used to be all woodland. Later on, consistent with our zoning and consistent with the airport hazard area zone, which also prevails in Manalapan, the properties there were developed with 3-acre minimum. So in Manalapan, the current zoning is R40, R20, where 40,000 square feet of minimum lot area is required. But however, if you opt for cluster zoning, you could have 20,000 square feet of lot size. But when this area was developed, the one that directly abuts the subject property, that area was developed, it was developed based on the airport hazard area zone, because both in Old Bridge and in Manalapan, the airport hazard area allows single-family homes provided they are zoned with a minimum 3-acre lot size. So Manalapan has developed their portion with the 3-acre minimum, which is kind of consistent with what we are proposing tonight, to rezone the SD5 property into the 3-acre minimum. Now, if you look at the current bulk standards for an SD5 zone, based on the allowed floor area ratio, this property can be developed with roughly 3 million square feet of warehousing. Yes, you heard it right, 3 million square feet of warehousing. So I think it was important for me to look at the existing roadway and the infrastructure. So the property directly abuts Pension Road. Pension Road is a very narrow road. The cartway width is somewhere between 20 to 25 feet. And so it is a single lane in either direction with a lane size somewhere between 11 to 12 feet, which cannot really support heavy trucks or trailers. Currently, this subject property, a portion of it is used for long-term auto storage. So the roadway is overburdened to begin with because it's an 11-foot wide lane and you have trucks and carrier trucks traversing through this roadway. The other is Englishtown, Old Bridge Englishtown Road, through which you can get onto Pension Road. Now, Old Bridge Englishtown Road, the cartway width varies, but in most instances, it is somewhere between 30 to 40 feet, except for when Old Bridge Englishtown Road meets Texas Road, or it meets John Wall Road, where they have the central turning lane, and there the cartway width is somewhere between 45 to 55 feet. Now, Old Bridge Englishtown Road is also constrained with wetlands in certain sections, so roadway widening is not an option in many of the instances. So even if we had to widen, because based on our 2009 circulation plan. So our traffic and circulation element of the master plan had had a circulation plan year 2025 map in there, wherein Pension Road was supposed to have a right-of-way width of 50 feet, whereas Old Bridge Englishtown Road was supposed to have a right-of-way width of 80 feet, but that 80 feet may not be possible. Pension Road, definitely 50 feet is tough because you already have residential properties. So roadway widening is going to be challenging if this property were to be developed with the permitted uses. The one more thing I noticed is the intersection of Pension Road and Englishtown Road. If you visualize it, Pension Road meets Englishtown Road at a very acute angle. Typically, traffic experts want to see a T intersection to have safe maneuvering of vehicles, especially when you're designing for larger vehicles such as this. But there, it is an acute angle. On Englishtown Road, there is no turning lane, central turning lane for trucks to make a left turn onto Pension Road. many a times the Department of Community Development has received complaints from residents that there are trucks traveling at a fast speed on Englishtown Road, or there are trucks that are taking longer than usual to make a turn from Texas Road onto Englishtown Road. I had a resident who had actually taken, and this was like a few years ago, taken a picture where the car carrier truck was stuck at that intersection. And part of the reason is because the curb radii at the intersection of Texas Road and Englishtown Road is not wide enough to support these type of truck movements. And so if this property was to be developed with current SD5 zone standards, and the permitted uses are warehousing, light industrial, commercial use, obviously it would have truck traffic. Most of the trucks that are ingressing or egressing from this site would be traveling or wanting to join New Jersey Turnpike. So what are their travel options, right? You go northbound on Englishtown Road. You either continue on Englishtown Road to meet Route 18, or you make a right turn and then travel eastbound on Texas Road to join on to 9 and then go on to 18. The other option is when you come out of Pension Road on Englishtown Road, you make a left turn, which is southbound. You travel southbound on Englishtown Road, but then you're entering Manalapan and you're traversing along Union Hill Road, which is predominantly residential. It's fully developed with residential single-family homes on either sides. So I think this all warrants us to revisit and take a re-look at this area and the zoning for this property. I'm not missing anything, Mark, right? Now, in the past years, most of the municipalities in New Jersey, including Old Bridge, has seen a high influx of warehousing. There has been significant pressure from developers to build warehousing. And I think Old Bridge has been proactive, and through sound planning and redevelopment, we have ensured that most of these warehousing projects are located on Route 9, which is like a highly traversed corridor connecting to regional centers, or we have the already designated Runyon redevelopment area, which used to be our SD3, or where we had most of the industrial uses that were located. So if you may recall, we adopted the BH Manzo site. There are a couple of redevelopment plans that are in making, but they are all concentrated either within the Runyon redevelopment area or at the intersection of Jade Brown Road and US 9. That's all where what we have developed in terms of warehousing. We have centralized them, or we have localized them in those areas itself. With Runyon redevelopment area, I think the best part was that our plan is consistent with the neighboring municipalities' plan too, because Sayreville has its Journey Mill redevelopment area, the Hercules redevelopment area within the same area. So our redevelopment efforts really match up with the redevelopment efforts in the neighboring town. Now, on September 7, 2022, New Jersey State Planning Commission, Office of Planning and Advocacy, adopted distribution warehousing and goods movement guidelines. This was a tool for proactive planning and helping municipalities to plan for this warehouse development. And one of the things that struck me was right on the first page of this document, it says that this guidance aims at to facilitate a proactive rather than reactive approach, which Old Bridge is adopting. Provide municipal factors to consider and balance when developing or adopting a master plan and reviewing applications, land use, and development regulations. And third, encourage a regional approach to planning and siting of these facilities. I think we are advancing many of the state planning commission's policies by considering rezoning for this property. Again, Old Bridge has strategically placed its potential warehouse development projects within redevelopment areas that are away from residential areas, have existing adequate infrastructure, or have the room to absorb additional infrastructure improvements, like we did with our redevelopment plan at the intersection of Jake Brown Road and US 9 and Jake Brown Road and White Oak Lane extension. Where the areas abut neighboring municipalities, the township has ensured that the proposed warehousing development is consistent with the land use patterns within the neighboring municipality. And that's where I was talking about Journey Mill Road redevelopment area and Hercules. Most importantly, the existing zoning designation for Block 23,001, Lot 9.11, contradicts two of the main purposes of municipal land use law. Purpose A, which relates to promoting of public health, safety, and general welfare, and Purpose D, which relates to developing properties consistently with what exists on the neighboring properties within other municipalities. These two inconsistencies further warrant reconsideration of the current zoning. Conversely, the change of the zoning classification to an R120 zone advances these two purposes. Interestingly enough, I was going through the Cox book and I came across this case, Riggs versus Long Beach Township, a zoning which set 4 criteria for a zoning ordinance to be validated. One of them was the ordinance must advance the municipal land use law declared purpose of promoting public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Substantially, the ordinance must substantially be consistent with the master plan. The third one is the ordinance must comport with constitutional constraints on the zoning power. And the last, ordinance must be adopted in accordance with the statutory and the municipal procedural requirements. The proposed ordinance to rezone the subject property advances the purposes of promoting public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Because as discussed earlier, the existing infrastructure within the neighboring area is inadequate to support uses that are permitted by the current zoning. The existing roadway alignments and the vital intersections are currently unsafe, dangerous, and inadequate. Do you want me to pause? Based on the preliminary traffic study conducted, for a 4 million square feet of warehousing, on daily basis, there would be 6,366 daily weekday trips. So if the property was to be developed, that would be the number of truck traffic or passenger cars that we would be experiencing. The existing roadway infrastructure is not even adequate to support the current operations of IAAI, which came in as a temporary facility. And I want to talk a little bit about this because the subject property was primarily used as recreational type of use since the mid-1960s. In 2013, the property owner came in front of the planning board, and what he testified was post Superstorm Sandy, there was a demand from insurance companies to store disabled vehicles on the property. And since the use of the property was recreational and limited to certain months, they wanted to use the property during those months when the business slows down otherwise. So the planning board granted an approval so that there would be long-term storage of vehicles on the property between October to April. But post 2013, the property has gone through significant changes. They have been in front of the planning board at informal discussions, and there have been conditions of approval that have altered. Originally, this site used to conduct racing and entertainment uses. However, in the past 10 years, the summer national events have been discontinued, drag racing and similar activities have been discontinued, and the property is now predominantly used for long-term storage of motor vehicles and drift track and motocross track, which only accounts for 30%. So the property is kind of underutilized. The most intense use presently is the operation of IAAI to store vehicles in large outdoor parking areas. The creeping nature of the revisions and the clarifications for this property have fundamentally changed how the property is and will be utilized for foreseeable future. The proposed change is therefore consistent with the master plan and reflects the recent changes in the parcel's operation. Apart from the purpose A and D, the following purposes of the municipal land use law are advanced by the proposed ordinance. That's purpose E, to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that will contribute to the well-being of persons, neighborhood, communities, and region, and preservation of environment. Purpose H, to encourage the location and design of transportation routes which will promote the free flow of traffic while discouraging location of such facilities and routes which result in congestion or blight. Purpose J, to promote the conservation of historic sites and districts, open space, energy resources, and valuable natural resources in the state, and to prevent urban sprawl and degradation of environment through improper use of land. The township has followed all requisite procedures pursuant to statutory and municipal procedural requirements for the adoption of the proposed ordinance. I'll take any questions.
Can council ask questions at this point before we open? Okay. Does anybody on my left side have a question for Vina? Anyone on my right? Mr. Pescetti.
Good evening. Can you tell me when the last time the recirculation plan was updated for Old Bridge?
I believe it was 2009.
So in 2009, did you discover that the Pension Road had an issue there for handling truck traffic?
I don't believe so. I mean, I wasn't there at that time, but from what I understand and researching is the actual change in the use on the property started occurring only after 2013, which was after 2009, the adoption of the circulation plan. The circulation plan does call for right-of-way width of Pension Road to be 50 feet, and it has existed in the manner it is existing now for the longest time.
So the owner of that property came before the planning board, you said?
Yes, in 2013.
And that was to change the use of the property?
To temporarily store vehicles on the site. And those were disabled vehicles after Superstorm Sandy.
Okay, so the movement of those vehicles are done by tractor trailer, I believe?
Yes.
Okay, so was that addressed at that time?
I am still investigating on that because obviously it was my predecessors. We were trying to dig into information to find out what really happened. The resolution is not that helpful, so I'd really have to dig through files to see what was presented to the planning board. But Mark can actually.
One thing I could say is that my understanding was that the initial application was for temporary storage after the storm. Somehow, that was supposed to be for a limited basis. That has evolved over time to a more permanent nature, and at one point, the property owner was conducting an auto auction, which is clearly not a permitted use. And what we can tell from these resolutions, from minutes from the planning board, was that these items would be discussed as discussion items. there'd be no notice of any type of amendment for site plan or anything like that. And then, for whatever reason, resolutions were adopted. I'm not sure how that it was or why that was, because there was no formal application submitted, there was no notice provided, but out of some of these meetings, resolutions were generated and adopted. But I think what we do know, though, is the initial application was to be for a temporary storage of the vehicles in light of Superstorm Sandy. So I think from that perspective, no one had anticipated that it would be something that would be long-term. If you go out there now, if you look at pictures, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of cars that are stored there, and I'm not sure, how frequently car carriers come in and out. But my sense would be it's probably not the same as if, in fact, it was fully developed for warehousing, right, or distribution center. But they're there, and that's something that when Vina was going through this and when looking at the zone change and going back historically and looking at what had happened to the planning board, this is when we discovered these resolutions, but no formal applications being filed.
Okay, so when you were reviewing the parcels in Old Bridge, how many different parcels did you actually target for zone change?
I mean, when we did the master plan re-exam, it was overall the entire township, right? So we identified Route 35 corridor, we identified global landfill site, we identified the Summers property, but then with Summers property, we had to include other parcels too that are surrounded because they are vacant and they are not developed. So there were many properties that were identified, numerous recommendations that were added last year. And the recommendation was to look at these areas or underutilized parcels to see if they can be either rezoned or if they can go the redevelopment route.
Okay, so none of those properties came before the council as far as I...
No, that's not true, because we already adopted the global landfill
yeah, the global landfill,
redevelopment
that's right, I remember
plan. I went through area investigation study for the Summer site. The planning board had a hearing at the last meeting. Tonight, you have a resolution from the planning board recommending that the council designate that area as in need of redevelopment. I was already in front of the planning board for the Route 35 corridor. So we have been, in fact, this is probably the last one on the list, because we addressed global landfill, Summer, Route 35. Yes, probably this is the last one. And this being a larger property, and in the past, working with the zoning office and seeing the resolutions, because when I joined Old Bridge in 2018, there was a request made by the property owner for auction sales. And I had done an extensive research on the resolutions prior to me. Nicole, who was the acting planner at that time, had also done her part of research. So knowing that this property is, in fact, the whole property is roughly 400 some acres, just the ST5 portion is 280 acres, and that's why it called for attention.
And the R120 is 3 acre minimum?
Yes, roughly, yep.
And the intersection of Englishtown Road and Texas Road has just been redone.
Correct.
So I guess you weren't here for that either?
No, I wasn't there, but what I know, because I know recently there was an application in front of the planning board for a flex space on Texas Road, and we went through the public hearing. At that time, there were a lot of questions and concerns, and Mr. De Palma can attest to that, questions regarding trucks entering that site, but flex space does not generate the type of truck traffic a warehouse or a distribution center would create, right? But at that time too, we are still having conversations with the county because again, Texas Road is a county road. We don't have jurisdiction over it. There was discussions about widening of Texas Road or why it was not done. And it was explained at that time by the applicant because most of the improvements on Texas Road were done by Woodhaven because Texas Road was affected by Woodhaven development the most. And apparently there are environmental constraints where widening is just not possible. So now with the flex space project, we had to reduce the lanes and create a central turning lane so that the trucks could go into the site. But the planning board had serious concerns because, I have myself seen a picture where a car carrier truck was kind of stuck for like almost 10 minutes, making a left turn or going southbound on Englishtown Road. In fact, when I was researching on this project, there was a Google Earth imagery, which I hate to use. I like taking personal pictures, but there was a Google Earth imagery where a car carrier truck is seen entering Raceway Park's property on Pension Road, but the carrier truck is half into the adjacent lane. So there isn't room for them to even make that turn.
Right, right. Okay, and the intersection between Pension and Englishtown Road, is there currently any development plans for any of that property in that immediate area?
I believe that the property at the corner, which is not developed right now, one of them is township-owned parcel, but the adjacent one has preliminary approvals. Woodhaven Estate 2, I believe, is the approval, but it's under the GDP. They have preliminary approval for single-family homes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I am.
Anyone else on my right for a question or a comment? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Seeing no hands, I'll open it now to the public. If anyone from the public wishes to be heard, please come forth.
Hi there, Henry. You graduated in 76 from Cedar Ridge? 75? No. What year?
77.
Oh, okay. You're a
making
year
me
behind
older.
me. I was
I know it's older
76.
month.
Okay, all right.
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry. Can you just please
Oh,
speak to this mic?
sure.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me sit you up over here. Sorry.
Do you remember Mr. Noto, the Marine who taught us defensive driving in the simulator? Did you have that? We had that at Madison Township High School. My son's 23 years old, and he is a truck driver. You ever see one of those people driving with the big loads, with the government vehicle in front and the government vehicle behind? Should you have to do any development, reconstruction, and you need to get heavy machinery in for any reason, remediation or building, you got to think, okay? So truck drivers do not have an easy job. Now you know why you talk like a truck driver when you're driving down the road. And you have to have respect. And I do drive from here down 35 to Madison, Middletown High School South. And this is a nightmare. So should there be any remediation projects or things like that, you have to think, especially considering the bridge. Well, they were only talking about that. We'll talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam President? Do the public identify themselves?
No,
Can't
there's a different.
By their name? Daniel
So
was-
they can,
this is not-
right, the problem becomes, under Daniel's law, to the extent that, let's say a person identifies themselves and then later on they register for Daniel's law. Now you have to go back and then redact those minutes, and it creates a lot of issues relative to having to post those minutes, redacting the minutes. So the better course is to, an individual can say where they're from, but without saying who they are.
Resident or no?
Resident, right, and then, right, exactly. That's as a result of Daniel's law.
Resident of Middlesex County, is that good?
There you go.
Brilliant. Okay, Vina, I do have a question for you. First of all, we have nearly 4 million square feet of warehouse space put up on Route 9.
Direct the question to the council
Okay, to the
president.
council. So
Thank
just so
you.
you guys think about this, when you guys approved the 4 million square feet, it was supposed to be 3 million, but now it's up to 4 million square feet of warehouse space between Cottrell, Jackson, Old Jake Road, whatever. That warehouse space, it was estimated there would be 90 tractor trailers per hour, which comes to, I don't know, what is that, about a little under 2,400 per day. I mean, 20, I don't know the math. You're a mathematician, so you may be able to do that faster. That said, Vina discussed just tonight the same size square footage warehouse space to be put right off of Englishtown Road with more than 6,600 tractor trailers. Now, I'm kind of confused. That's 277 tractor trailers per hour that would be traveling down Englishtown Road, Pension Road, Union Hill Road, all of these roads. And now I know that you guys have not agreed to have this become a warehouse. What I'm concerned about is two things. First of all, who made the traffic plan that gave us 90 for the same square footage that now we're coming, you got, the gentleman, I'm not sure where the traffic plan came from this time. I didn't catch it, but it's, 3 times, right? 3 times 9. What is that? 270, right? 2790. I don't know. I'm just trying to understand this. So while you're sitting here discussing another warehouse in this town, doubling the square footage of space where Mon Road, just next door, next to Route 9, has warehouses that are empty, just consider how many tractor trailers are going to be going down Englishtown Road. I'm sorry, does that confuse you? Was that confusing, the numbers game? Okay. It's a shame, guys, by the way, that you guys don't have comments. You should go to the Spotswood Council meeting. They actually engage with the public. Interesting.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to be heard tonight?
Good evening. I'm Frank Wisniewski, and I had sent a letter. Is that part of the record?
Yes, sir.
It was received, Mr. Wisniewski. It's dated May 4th, 2023, and council was provided with a copy of the letter.
Okay, so it's part of the record.
Well, you submitted it, and it was received. So to the extent that it was received, and council has it.
Well, it's part of the record because it significantly impacts the hearing.
Right, we'll address it at the appropriate time.
What's the concern with having it as part of the record? I don't understand the
Well,
objection.
again, there's no official record. I mean, to the extent that there's minutes and you've submitted it, obviously it's something for council to consider because they acknowledge the receipt of your May 4th, 2023 protest letter. So we have it and they're aware of it.
Have you informed them of what that means legally?
I have.
And what did you inform them?
You can do your presentation at the appropriate time. They'll deal with it.
I'm sorry, I don't understand why.
It's public hearing, so the council comment. The council's received your letter. The protest is noted, and you want to do your comments, so they're aware of the code section, the statute section, and what the statute requires.
Okay, I have one general concern.
I would note, though, if you want to get into it, the statute actually requires that the owners submit.
I'm the attorney for the owner.
I know, but the statute says, and you know this, you know what the statute says.
I know also what the law says, an attorney is the alter ego of their client.
So I just want
Speak
to.
on behalf of the client.
I just want to say what the statute says, but that being said, council was advised of the protest, they're aware of it, and what it means.
So you're telling me that because they didn't sign the letter, the owners, it's not a valid protest?
I didn't say that. I'm just noting it with what was received, that's all.
Okay, well, Do you want me to have the clients sign the letter also, or are you saying it's an invalid protest because it wasn't signed by the owners?
All I'm saying is, I noted what the statute says, I noted that you submitted the letter, right? So it may or may not be an issue, right? If 6 votes are recorded, then it's not an issue, right? If 6 votes are not recorded, then it may be an issue.
Having a difficult time understanding this discussion. Are you telling me an attorney at law is not considered the equivalent of the client when submitting documents to any organization?
No, again, all I'm saying is that I noted what the statute states, and I also acknowledge that you submitted your protest letter and the council has received it. That's all I'm saying.
You're also saying that it wasn't signed by the property owners, it was signed by their attorneys, and I'm asking you what difference that makes with respect to this particular hearing.
I didn't opine either way on that. All I'm noting are facts, that's all.
Well, what about the fact that an attorney is the alter ego of their client, and whatever the attorney does is the equivalent of the client, or here in the owner in this instance?
Your position's duly noted.
All right. Just an overall comment. We're dealing with a significant issue for my clients. This ordinance is looking to rob them of their use of that property and basically zone it into disuse. Yet what we hear are comments from the attorney, we hear comments from your planner that we really don't know what the facts are. We think it may be this. We've heard this. We're not sure. I think that is entirely wrong. I'd like to ask your planner, did you ever talk to the owners of the property to get their view on what the uses have been, what the history is, what's actually going on there?
So again, if you direct the questions, it's not a planning board hearing, so the appropriate protocol is to direct your question to the council president.
So I need to ask her a question, then she asks the planner?
Again, yeah, it gets directed to the council president, because the council president, it's a council meeting. That's the protocol that we've adopted, that we've utilized for anyone who comes up for comment.
But this is a public hearing on an ordinance where you have a presentation by one party, and I'm not allowed to ask questions?
I didn't say that. Again, it's directed to the council president, right? You want to ask a question, the council president is the one who runs the meeting, and the council president is the one who determines whether or not she'll direct a question directly to the planner to answer it. That's the process that we follow.
Madam Chairman, can I ask questions directly of the planner? Otherwise, we're going to be here for 5 hours.
Well, the thing is this, I think what he's trying to establish is what the protocol is. If you have multiple questions, let's start with your first one and move forward. I will bring it to our planner, but I think it's done for a specific legal reason. So I have to adhere to what our attorney tells us. He's our go-to.
Okay, so I can respond in the legal, and I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No.
We've got a serious issue here. And, a lot of comments have been made, we don't know why, we looked at this, we didn't get.
But we do take it very seriously, absolutely.
Okay, fine.
And it has nothing to do with you. It's protocol, and we're trying to establish a decorum in our meetings, and we just want to keep that because we've had situations in the past where when it wasn't done that way, things could tend to get out of hand. Not saying that you're going to do it, it's just the protocol that we follow.
Well, it does impact me, and it impacts my client. You're up there making statements that my client never made an application and never got an approval. Resolutions appeared out of the air. That is a serious, serious charge, and that didn't happen. My client got actual approval
Right.
to put that
Again,
insurance cards
right.
on there.
Okay. So you can, you can ask the questions, direct to the council president, and then she can direct the planner to respond.
Okay.
Just so that
Madam
it's-
President, could you ask the planner whether the planner ever talked to the owners of the property when the time she started to think about rezoning or looking at this property and declaring it an area in need of or underutilization?
I
Mr.
have
Savant?
not. I have not.
Okay, can you, a little louder because they can't hear you?
I have not.
Okay, so you did not, thank you.
Would you ask the planner if she ever heard of the phrase "throwing the baby out with the bathwater"?
I have.
Have you heard that expression? Okay.
You have. And do you consider basing all of your reports and everything on the fact that this is going to be a huge warehouse facility?
No,
That's,
No.
Just ask a question again, I'm sorry.
yeah. What was the question again? I don't think.
question is my understanding of what I heard, basically, her main premise is she's scared to death that there's going to be thousands and thousands of square foot of warehousing on this property, and that's why she's moving forward to have this ordinance passed to change the zoning and rob my clients of their use of the property.
Do you understand the question?
I did.
It's part of our
I don't think so. I don't believe so, because I think the concern is whether, the existing zoning is appropriate for the location with the drastic changes that have happened over the years in the land use pattern surrounding the area. It has not so much to do with the current use of the property, but I think my presentation talked about the history of the property, the land use surrounding the property, the zoning surrounding the property, and how the land use patterns within Old Bridge as well as the neighboring town have changed, and how the rezoning is kind of warranted because of the concerns of, this property being changed, or the change of use to what is permitted by the SD5 zone currently.
Are there tractor-trailer uses on that property now?
There's long-term auto storage, so there are carrier car trucks coming in currently.
Did you review the records of the planning board relative to whether the owners of the property got the approval of the township to have the storage on there by IAA?
Yes, I have.
And the township limited that storage to 100 acres.
That is correct.
Could you tell me what your definition of underutilized is relative to Lot 9.11?
So when I say underutilization it pertains to the remainder of the property. I'm not saying that the one covered by IAA is underutilized. But originally, when IAAI came in, it was to store vehicles on the entire property. Over a course of time, when they came in front of the planning board with,
What's wrong with that mic?
gosh,
Yeah, switch them. Yeah.
there were conditions from the original resolution of approval that were changed or eliminated. And at one point, I believe it was in 2016 or 17, when the applicant came back in front of the planning board and the planning board restricted the use to be only on 100 acres of the parcel.
Now, did you take into consideration, when you made your determination it's underutilized, that the township prevented the client, the owner of that property, from using the balance of it for the IA use?
Can you repeat the question?
Did you take into consideration that this property is underutilized because the planning board prevented IAA from using the other 100 acres of the property for the permitted use?
No. Because at that time, when the planning board limited the IAAI use to 100 acres, the presumption was that the remaining 180 acres would continue to be the entertainment facility. They would continue with the recreation use as before. It restricted it to 100 acres to ensure that when there are events, there is adequate parking on site.
So if,
But over the course of time, there have been uses on the recreational component which have been terminated or are no longer used.
so the zoning would allow IAA to use the balance of the property if zoning board eliminates that restriction, correct?
I mean, you would have to go back to the board, you have to provide testimony related to the traffic and the use of the property, and it would be up to the board to approve or deny it.
But it's a permitted use, correct?
It is a permitted use, yes,
And,
under the current zoning.
correct. And that would eliminate your conclusion that the property is underutilized, correct? If they started to use those additional 100 acres?
Probably, yes.
Okay. So, and warehousing isn't the only use permitted for that property, correct?
That is correct.
And light industrial uses such as small storage spaces and so forth would not have the same traffic issues that you're concerned about if it were built for huge warehouses, correct?
I mean, I would have to review that application to make that determination.
But when you made your determination that the property was underutilized, you didn't take into consideration the permitted uses under the SD5 that could be put on there and would not harm your, or support your concern that there's going to be huge traffic and tons of tractor trailers coming to the property, correct?
Yes.
What other uses are permitted in the SD5 that wouldn't result in tons of tractor trailer traffic coming in?
I would have to look at the ordinance.
But you didn't consider that when you came to the conclusion that this ordinance should be passed to prevent my client from using the property that they've been using all these years, correct? You didn't analyze other uses and the impact of other permitted uses before you came to a conclusion that the property is underutilized and the zoning had to be changed to prevent truck traffic.
Have you considered, when you formulated the decision to do the zone change, SC5 has more than warehousing use. And in coming to the conclusion that changing to the R120 would be appropriate, were those other uses that are permitted under the SD5, or did you consider those as well, in addition to the warehousing?
Right.
Correct, Mr. Wisniewski, that's your question.
Pardon me?
That's
Yes.
right.
I did, and as far as I remember, SD5 allows more industrial type of uses, which I fear would have some sort of truck traffic, and now you are surrounded by residential properties and residential land uses surrounding it, so it just doesn't seem to be sound planning to even continue using that property with SD5. And also, remember, when it was recreational use, it was a different use in the property. It has a different character, nature. It has different impact. When IAAI came and continued to stay there long-term, it kind of changed the use more to do with industrial type of use. So the use has been changing.
What was there first? The airport or the housing in Manalapan?
The airport. The
And,
housing in Manalapan came around 1995.
and I don't know, any members of the township council here around when that happened and all the flack you took because residences were built next to the airport? Pardon me?
It's not our town.
I understand that, but my understanding is they still came here because the airport was here, and I understand, maybe I'm wrong, but there was even litigation by those residents against this township because of the airport? Is that not accurate? It was before your time? Okay. All right, okay.
Just a little.
Okay, fine, okay. All right, now, back to my first question. What definition of underutilized was used to analyze Lot 9.11?
I didn't really go by a definition because, I mean, out of the 280 acres, if 100 acres is occupied by IAAI, so roughly 25 to 30% is used, and the remainder, I know that the drag racing and summer national events and many activities have been terminated, there is clear underutilization, and especially because even the ones that are operated are seasonal. So you have roughly 200 acres that is not utilized as much.
As much. What's the definition of underutilized? That's a statement in your report. It is part of the municipal land use law. It is part of the redevelopment law. How do you define underutilized, and how did you use that definition in saying Lot 9.11 is underutilized?
I don't have it in front of me.
Pardon me, you don't have a definition?
Yep.
Okay. What studies and criteria were used and what facts were used to determine that Lot 9.1 is underutilized?
I don't have that.
None?
I think where I'm getting a little confused, and I need directions from our attorney, is I don't think the basis of rezoning was purely underutilization. And my presentation did mention that the site is underutilized and the use has changed, but the basis of rezoning was that this location, it could be any property, but this area does not have the infrastructure to support industrial type of uses or the uses that are permitted by SD5 zone. And this area has always been residential or farmland, and when it was a recreation use, it was different, but when there have been discussions, I know the property owner has reached out to the zoning officer asking for what can be done on the property. He has asked about warehousing. Clearly, there are signs that there is some sort of vision or in the property owner's mind to change the use, and warehousing, industrial, commercial, heavy commercial uses, the infrastructure isn't there to support it. And especially with environmental constraints, it is difficult to even add on to the infrastructure, because when we wrote other redevelopment plans, there wasn't adequate infrastructure, but we ensured that there was, or the developer was committed to adding those improvements. Here, there is no room for such improvements.
What improvements are you talking about that there's no room for?
Roadway widening improvements. Roadway widening improvements. Like I said before in my presentation, the vision or the master plan had recommended that English Town Road be 80 feet wide. Right now, it's somewhere between 30 to 40 feet. We did have some preliminary discussions with the county, where the county had, because obviously Old Bridge English Town Road is a county road. So the county did mention that there are constraints and widening may be difficult.
Difficult,
Yes.
but not impossible.
In certain instances, it would be impossible if there are constraints.
If there are constraints.
Yes, which there are.
The report that you were reading from, when was that prepared?
This one?
Whatever you were referring to.
Yes, today.
Today?
Yes.
So when was that information given to the planning board? All the information you put in your report today, when was that given to the planning board so that they could then evaluate the reexamination? Did they have all those facts in front of them then?
I made a presentation in front of the planning board
About the reexamination, not,
about the re-examination.
And all those facts that you have in your written report today, you gave to them verbally?
Yes.
And why wasn't that reflected in any of the minutes of the planning board?
We don't have a court reporter when I make presentations. I mean, we do, I don't know. I don't know. But we have our meetings on YouTube, so there is record.
And you said you never talked to the owners of the property about any of this over the last couple of years, at least since you've been planner, about their current uses, the past uses, or the future uses. So I take it you never told them that you were going to be talking about their property before the planning board?
I have not.
Nor is it required pursuant to municipal land
I
use.
understand that, but if you're looking to do good planning,
And,
you normally,
So
especially,
you made the point, it's not required, so
I understand that, but I want to respond to,
Your inference is that it's required, but it's not required.
no, I agree, it's not required. But it
And
seems-
frankly, in many times, in most instances, when municipalities do master plan re-exam reviews or updated, they don't speak to the property owners. Because it's the township's vision, it's the township's goals, what the township wants to do, right?
That is your position.
No,
That's your experience.
that's my
Maybe
experience.
That's how you tell your government
No, that's
bodies to act.
experience, because most of the time, if you reach out to a property owner, right? A property owner, may not like what you're going to do, so, you're looking at the overall plan. I mean, master plans are goals and objectives, you set it up, so it's not unusual that a municipal planner not contact property owners when they do re-exams or, updates the master plans.
I understand that. My experience is completely contrary. I've been practicing law for 57 years. I probably look like I've been doing it longer. But in any event, my experience is government's a lot more friendly to their taxpayers and property owners, and especially when you're talking, and Ms. Swan, the property is 255 acres, not 280 acres. You're relying on a bad tax record, but it's only 255 acres that are zoned SD5. But normally, there's an engagement with someone that has that much property in the whole process to get the facts right and to talk about what their vision is for the use and so forth, instead of just throwing it out, and I'm saying throwing out the baby with the bathwater because you're afraid of warehouses, you're throwing out the whole zone, taking all my clients' property rights away without even engaging and talking with them. It just doesn't make any sense from a good government standpoint, even from a compassionate standpoint. And here we're getting a lot of facts that aren't true and a lot of scare tactics out there on those things, and the board still controls it. Let me ask Ms. Swan, how many site plan have you been through where the developer of the property, as part of their site plan on the big things, puts in the infrastructure that's needed and does road widening if it's needed? And also, maybe, I don't know how much later, but, and also under the law, you can't deny an application because of traffic and the road system's not sufficient. It's up to government to provide the road systems, but municipalities now sort of twist the arm of the developer to do it and to pay for it. But the fact that the road doesn't exist today and development comes along, I mean, who developed this building? Who developed these parking lots?
I know, I think
Somebody did it because
well, I
that's
think there's an
progress.
acknowledgement of that. But again, I think the gist of the presentation and the justification is looking at the existing land uses that exist, what's there now, what could be built there in the future, and the compatibility of that use in that location, the infrastructure. Sure, look, I think Vina can confirm that. Off-site improvements are done all the time, right? But I think the point is that when knowing the history of those roads, what's there, and again, knowing what could be built, you have to think ahead. And I think you plan and anticipate that while there might be some improvements made, there are others that could not be made or would not be made. And then you have to make your best estimate based upon the information you have.
Yeah, but you didn't have sufficient information because there was no dialogue to find out what the property owner could do with the property, how they could handle these problems if there was dialogue. Just made it. We'd all be living in teepees if we had government.
I don't even think
this way that we're
I
afraid
don't
of
think the
what's gonna
property
happen.
owner even knows what the extent of those would be, right? So it wouldn't be fair to the property owner. They wouldn't know what would be required or not required
Certainly could. This
relative.
property owner had it under agreement with
relative-
somebody to use it for warehousing.
Relative to off-site improvements, they wouldn't know what those were.
Yes, but you hire professionals. Professionals, your professionals come in, yes.
I understand that, but again, so let's just stick to the ordinance and the questions
Well,
relative to
I
the
am
ordinance.
sticking to the ordinance. I'm sticking to the fact that an ordinance has been introduced without sufficient investigation, without sufficient study, based upon one individual, and then you're also saying, we don't know what happened, they're doing things illegally, they get resolutions that pop out of the sky.
I didn't say they're doing things illegally. I'm saying from what was presented to me, there were resolutions that were apparently adopted, and there did not appear to be, that they were discussion items on the planning board, and there did not appear to be notice provided. That's all I'm saying.
And what notice would have needed, if it's a permitted use and there's no variances, you don't necessarily need to have notice.
Again, I'm just citing facts that I know that were provided to me, as far as not the planning board attorney, right? All I'm just saying is that's something that happened in the past. Everyone knows what the use is there now, and it's been stored for the storage, and that went through an approval process. There were other things that happened subsequent to that, and I was relaying that. That has nothing to do relative to the presentation by the planner and the reason for the rezoning.
And
I think it does, because she's using the term underutilized, and that's why she started the whole process. She came to that conclusion, and it's underutilized. Yeah, it could be utilized for another 100 acres.
Mark,
And we're
I
not
just have a
talking
question.
180, we're talking 255 acres.
Did I hear Mr. Wisniewski saying that the property owner had a contract with a developer for warehousing? Did I hear that?
That's what he said.
There was, at one point in time, they were looking at that, so that developer did the whole study. And I don't know why it didn't go through, but that developer did a study of what infrastructure would be needed, what they have to do where, and so forth. No, it never, I understand it never got to the township, but I'm just responding to your question. Yes, the property owner does know, and most property owners that are developing their property, other than housing on 3 acres, let's get to that. What studies were...
Right, relative to that potential contract or development, the township was contacted by the county on that issue.
By what?
By the county. The county contacted the township. So there was information provided to the township relative to that, and concerns expressed by the county on the county roads. Vina can talk to that, but it wasn't, again, this wasn't done in a vacuum. So obviously, a development of that magnitude, you're utilizing county roads. The county did notify the township, hey, this is out there.
Right, and I'm just responding to your thing that a developer or a property owner wouldn't know whether they had to put in improvements, and I was just responding, absolutely they do.
And I was part of those meetings. I did hear the county's concerns. I did hear the improvements they were asking for and their emphasis on road widening. It ended at a point where the developer was supposed to go back and investigate and see if road widening was even an option. At that meeting itself, the county had mentioned about the constraints on Englishtown Road, the constraints on Texas Road, and that Texas Road widening not being a viable option. With Englishtown Road too, they had serious concerns because of the constraints, especially where improvements were being suggested. So I was a part of this.
But that's all the discussion on big warehouses and tons of tractor
But
trailers.
that was the proposal that was put forward.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, there's more uses that can be put on there that don't involve all of that
But
infrastructure.
the property owner did not come with those uses. The ask was for, which was later reduced to 1.5 million square feet, what with AIIA to remain on the site.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, so now you're taking the zoning away because there was going to be big warehouses and trucks, and now it was even pared back. Let me ask this question. What studies were conducted and who was consulted on the viability of R120 uses you're rezoning this 255 acres to, that it's going to get developed at R120? These 255 acres now will get developed as one house every 3 acres. Let me ask this also at the same time. Who in their right mind would want to put up a house next to the airport.
So again, you can ask a question, but you don't have to be derogatory in your question, right? So
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
that's not appropriate. I mean, you have a question, it's a public hearing, you want to ask a question, that's fine. There's no need to be derogatory.
I didn't think I was being derogatory, I was asking the
So,
question.
it's a simple question.
Yeah.
And Mr. Wisnowski, I know that when you had called me, you had asked me the same question. But again, the property, 50% of the property already is covered by the airport hazard area zone. The only residential use permitted has a 3-acre minimum lot size. The same airport hazard area zone overlay is also on Manalapan side of the property. Manalapan has developed their area, although it allows 40,000 square feet as a minimum lot size. And if a developer opts for a cluster zoning option, you could develop 20,000 minimum lot size. They did proceed with the airport hazard area overlay zone standards, which was 3 million square feet. So I know you had asked me that who in the right mind would rezone the property to 3 million square feet, but you have a property that has an overlay that restricts you to residential use with a minimum of 3 acres. I think it's a no-brainer there.
No, that's not accurate.
You're surrounded by R120. I have so many reasons. Your property is surrounded by R120 zone.
I understand.
You have 50% of the property is covered by airport hazard area overlay that again limits it to 3-acre minimum.
Only for residential. You can do commercial. And that's what I'm saying. You're taking away this property owner's right to put commercial on the balance of that 255 acres. That's what you're stealing from my client, the right to put commercial on there. That is
So, all right,
permitted
so
use.
again, we understand that. So it's not a debate, so we just.
Well, it is a debate.
I understand, but now is not the time to have the debate,
Oh, it
right?
is.
No, you want to ask questions, you can ask the question. It's a public hearing. Other people may want to ask question for a public hearing. We can't be here all night, so just present your question.
No, I respectfully disagree. The fact that she said it's restricted to residential because it's next to an airport, and it has to be 1 for 3 acres, that is not a fact. The law is that you can have, as long as you're not in the overlay zone of the airport, you can have commercial uses. If you're going to have residential uses, yes, then it's restricted to 1 every
Right,
3
and
acres.
that's what the zoning says.
Okay, and my question is, who in the right mind will buy a house next to the airport, and especially a 3-acre lot, and spend 3-acre lot, you got to put up bigger houses on it and so forth. Who's going to do that? Okay, let me ask this
But
question.
it's a hypothetical. I don't have an
No, it
answer.
isn't a hypothetical.
Okay.
I'm asking her what studies she
That's a
did.
different question.
What studies did she do to confirm the viability of using the rest of this land for R120 housing? What studies, and to come to the conclusion that R120 is the most appropriate use for that property?
Can you answer that, Vina?
I missed that.
Yeah, he's reiterating his question. Did you perform any studies independent of your review and with the report to indicate that the R120 was appropriate? How did you come to that conclusion?
No, I haven't. I just wanted to bring one point, and I did briefly talk about it. When I joined in 2018, there was a request for auction sales, and I had done a memo which was copied to Mr. Stake at that time, Peter Stake, who was the planner, I think representing the Knapp brothers. And also prior to me, Nicole had done a detailed study beginning of 2018, which had enumerated what happened. Actually, Nicole's memo had details on what really happened at the planning board, that there were no notices sent out. The property owner was notified of what went on. And there was a lot of back and forth on on the auction sales itself, and eventually it faded out. I didn't hear, after my letter went out, I didn't hear back for the longest time, and then we found out later that they were conducting auction sales at the site. So it's not true that the property owner was not informed, that we were investigating and we were trying to find out more information on the current use of the property.
When was this?
2018,
We're talking about a master plan reexamination
We were
dated
talking
April
about,
2022.
you're talking
And you're
about
talking about
a
rezoning?
letter that went to the property owner in 2018 based on the use that is currently existing on this site. IAAI came in for informal, or the property owner came in for informal discussions in front of the planning board for a temporary use that came in 2013. Subsequent to that, there were 2 other hearings in front of, informal hearings in front of it. This was a temporary condition that has been expanded on the site. A letter went out in 2018 detailing all the events that had occurred since 2013 by myself. Later on, a planner from either IAAI or the property owner, both of which have been copied along with their engineer, that their use is expanding, that it is not what was approved, that they need to come in for a D1 use variance. After Vina came, she used her expertise as a planner to write to the planner for the property owner, indicating the same, agreeing with my assumptions. So the fact that the property owner did not know that IAAI was an issue on site is not a true statement. In addition, the traffic that comes off of IAAI is not what was depicted or expressed in front of the planning board. I was not there for all the meetings. These informal discussions happened before my time with the township, but when they continued as informal discussions, they were here under the auspice of our township planner, Sam Rizzo, at the time, and he had expressed concerns. Our township, assistant township engineer, Pinder Sumal, had sent letters. So certainly, I believe that probably the property owner has not shared these documents with. More than happy to. If you call me tomorrow, I will share the information with you.
For the record, can we have who just spoke?
Sure.
I apologize. Nicole Shapiro, Director of Community Development and Township Engineer.
Now,
I
can
do
ask
want
that
to-
person a question?
Again, go ahead, Vina.
I just do want to add one more thing, that when going through the resolutions, I had also verified there was no traffic expert, there was no traffic testimony that was provided, because in 2013, when they came in front of the board, it was only for temporary use, and it was the excuse was that insurance companies needed a place to store damaged vehicles post Superstorm Sandy. So there was no traffic expert who presented any traffic data at that hearing.
And you now, but subsequent to that, the property owner and IAA came in and got the approval of the planning board to use it.
I'm
And
not
they-
su-
And 12 months a year, the resolution will authorize 12 months a year, but it was restricted to 100 acres.
I
Is
mean-
that correct?
That is correct, but I'm not sure if that is, that's a question for Mark, because none of these presentations were noticed. They came in for an informal discussion. There was a presentation made at the planning board. For it to be a legal action, it has to be noticed. None of these changes were legally presented, in my opinion, but I would leave it to Mark.
Why would they have to be noticed if it's a permitted use?
You're changing the resolution of approval, you're changing the conditions of approval on an approved resolution. Why would you not come back? You are changing the site plan. Why would you not come back?
I'm saying, why do you need notice? You don't need notice if
If
there's
it's an
not a
amended
variance.
site plan, you need to notice it. It's an amended site plan.
Right, so let's get back to the ordinance, right? This is a public hearing, the ordinance.
All right.
Do you have any more questions relative to the ordinance?
Yes.
All right. We have to move on.
Okay, so your testimony was you did not do any studies to determine whether R-120 would be viable on this land, correct?
That is,
Okay. did you do any studies why the existing 133 to 140 acres of R120 around this property is not used?
No.
So you're basing your testimony that it's consistent with the land uses around. It really should be, it's consistent with the zoning because there are no residential land uses except an isolated house here and there, correct?
That's not true. There are residences on Pension Road. There are residences on Englishtown Road. We do have a pending application for one of the neighboring properties. If not, they have filed it. They have come in application for residential neighboring property. So there are.
So you disagree?
How far away are those residentials from the R120 lands owned by the NAP entities? Pardon me?
It's right next to the property.
How many houses would be built right next to the SD5 lands?
I haven't calculated that.
None of these houses you're talking about are abutting the SD5 lands, correct?
They are. They are. There is R120 surrounding the property. There are few properties. I'm aware that there are few properties owned by the same property owner which are in the R20 zone.
R120.
R120 zone, sorry.
And are those property owners the NAPs? Do you know which
Are
of
they
those?
are the property owners the NAPs?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
Some of them.
and they're not used. There's what, 3 houses on those 140 acres?
They are not used because they were used for staging and parking trucks at one point. There was a notice of violation that was issued by the zoning office.
Are you aware that representatives of the township told the NAPs the township doesn't want residential on this property? And I think some people in this room told the NAPs that there was not going to be residential on that property, the town's saving it for commercial, and that's why the NAPs didn't pursue residential?
No.
I'm not
sorry, you
aware
can
of
answer.
that. No,
Not aware of that, okay.
no.
So no study was done to determine whether the R120 lands surrounding this Lot 911 are underutilized or utilized, correct?
That is correct.
No, right.
Pardon me?
I was going to say, no separate study was done.
And were any studies done on why most of the R20 lands in this whole area,
R120.
R120, are not utilized?
No.
Okay. What studies were done to determine the township needs more R120 lands zoned?
None.
How does this proposed zoning change address the criteria from the reexamination report that the town's looking for more balanced jobs to housing? In another way, you're taking jobs away and saying that housing should go up. So what studies were done to see whether this particular ordinance meets that objective of the reexamination report?
I don't agree. I don't agree with that statement that we're taking the jobs away. All we're doing is we are concentrating non-residential developments in the areas that support regional traffic or in areas where there is adequate infrastructure. I don't think we're taking away jobs.
You're preventing the use of the property. You say they can't use it for what it's zoned for today. Now they've got can only use residential, which is not going to happen next to the airport. So what of those other 100 and some acres,
Well, that's a conclusion that you reached,
Okay, I'm
right? So
asking-
you're drawing conclusions. So again, and I understand you want to ask questions, fine, you've asked questions, but as part of your analysis, on the R120, and the conclusion with respect to if I may, re-exam on the balance of housing and jobs, in considering it, did you consider the types of housing that the township is looking to bring to the municipality, given what has happened, transpired over the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years?
Yes, yes, and that's where like large lot zoning or larger lots, especially in that area where it was predominantly R120 zone, is appropriate.
And have you received any or contacted by any developers who've indicated an interest in developing R120 zones with larger lot sizes?
Yes.
And are the national developers?
Yes, they
National builders?
Yes, they
The
are.
fact that one of the builders contacted the property owner previously.
Yes,
So we know that there's an interest in building houses on that site.
that is correct.
And were you also aware, Mr. Roselli or Ms. Awan, that the township representatives, I understand maybe some sitting in this room, told the NAPS we don't want housing on there, and so the NAPS turned away those national developers for that property?
I wouldn't know that.
Okay, you don't know that?
I don't have any information either.
What documents did the planning board and you refer to in determining this ordinance is consistent?
The master plan re-examination report, the zoning map.
Are you familiar with the requirements of the consistency determination are?
Yes,
Pardon me?
yes.
And what is that?
I mean, I
If you don't remember, if you don't recall, you say you don't recall.
No, it's,
don't recall.
no, so you want me to show you the municipal land use law?
Well, just answer the question. I understand it. Do you recall what the requirements are?
I don't.
Okay.
Isn't the determination to be, you said it was consistent with the reexamination report. Doesn't the municipal land use law require the planning board to make a determination whether it's consistent with the master plan, not the reexamination report?
That is correct. However, the master plan was written almost 30 years ago, and the master plan re-examination report was more recent in 2017 for municipal land use law.
Just for purposes, the planning board's consistency determination is invalid, and this council cannot act on the ordinance because there was not a determination that this ordinance is consistent with the master plan.
That's what you're arguing.
You want me to show you the ordinance?
I know what the ordinance.
Statute?
I know what the statute says. A master plan re-exams can act as an amendment to a master plan as well.
No, it can't. I don't see anything in the municipal land use law that says that.
Okay.
And,
So you have another question?
yeah, okay.
Because she's been on here for an hour now. She's got to be tired. Plus he's being tired.
What references are in, let's say, the reexamination report, since you feel that that's proper and your attorney feels it's proper, what references are there in the reexamination report relative to this property that leads to the introduction of this ordinance?
Just give me 1 second. So there is language in the re-examination report adopted September 22nd, 2017, last revised April 28, 2022, which includes recommendation that states that large underutilized properties within the township, such as Raceway Park, the former Lowe's property, etc., and the area along Lawrence Harbor waterfront should be re-examined for future redevelopment potential or rezoning.
There's nothing else in that. If it's an amendment to the master plan, There's nothing in there saying what land use element needs to be changed, what the planning standards are, and so forth. If you're going to rely on the reexamination, there's one isolated statement says somebody ought to look at the zoning of this particular piece of property. That's a lot different than a master plan setting forth what the land use elements are and so forth.
I did look at that aspect, and the attorney and I had a conversation on that as well. The land use element of the master plan was only adopted in 2009. It was long back. It hasn't been revised or revisited since then. The changes in the use of the property have happened much later after that 2009 land use element.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have to say much more because she's even saying it's illegal because they did not amend the master plan. It's old, and maybe it should have been amended, but
But that is why the township adopted the master plan reexamination report. Most of the elements of the master plan are old, but we have been updating sections through either redevelopment planning efforts or through the master plan reexamination report.
I understand that. But the master plan still does not comport with what you're asking this council to do.
That is correct.
So I don't see how the council can vote.
But the master plan reexamination report does.
I understand that.
So
But you
ask the
didn't
next
amend
question,
the
right?
master plan.
It's his position that the master plan wasn't amended by virtue of the adoption of the re-exam report.
Yes. And so this ordinance is invalid because it's not pursuant to the master plan. And that's what was presented to you, but I think we've shown tonight that that's inaccurate. It wasn't adopted pursuant to the master plan, and already the planning board consistency determination is invalid, and this council can't act on this ordinance on the basis of that either.
Next question.
Just one more comment, please.
Hold on.
No. You already talked once. Thank you.
My last comment is, in addition to what I pointed out, that this ordinance cannot be adopted, it would be an illegal ordinance. In addition, the ordinance is illegal on its face because the municipal land use law and the Department of Transportation regulations prohibit a municipality from creating or zoning an airport into a non-conforming use. And that's what this ordinance does, so it's invalid on its face also. I don't have any further comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Was there anyone else in the public who has not spoken yet, wish to come up and speak? Seeing no hands, I will close the public portion and go to council.
Roll call on adoption of the ordinance 2023-10. Councilperson De Palma.
Before you go, I'm sorry, just want to point out, you had indicated relative the airport zone, it acts as an overlay in the municipal, in our ordinance, right?
That is correct.
Right, and so relative to that airport zone, that overlay continues.
That's correct.
Because it's the way it's set up, and
That
maybe
is
you can
correct.
explain the way it's set up in the code.
Yes, it is set up as a separate zone, and there is a separate section that dictates it. But although the ordinance doesn't clearly identify it as an overlay zone, it has always acted as an overlay zone. And it still remains, it remains untouched.
Just want to make that clear.
The airport hazard area zone is a zone that is codified in the zoning ordinance, although the ordinance doesn't specifically call it out as an overlay zone. It has always been treated and acted upon the same way. We are not changing anything to that classification, so the overlay still remains. The airport hazard area overlay still remains.
Legally, the ordinance doesn't do that, but just by the way it's been Sorry. I'm
We
just
under-
wanting to understand that it's just been historically treated as an over,
We got it. I think they understand that.
well, if it's not on the record, I want to make sure it's on the record.
We understand. You, you,
But it is codified as
We have a
zone.
motion. Oh, I thought you did, I'm sorry.
I just want to repeat, Mr. Wisniewski did submit his protest relative to NJSA 40:55D-63, and as part of that ordinance, statute rather, the requirement is that in order for, or because of that provision, that in order for the zoning ordinance to be adopted, you need two-thirds votes, two-thirds of the governing body to vote in the affirmative. So in this instance, since we have 9 members, you would require 6 votes.
Can we get a motion, please?
Move it.
Councilperson Walker,
Second.
Councilperson De Palma. Roll call vote.
This is for, I'm sorry, this is for adoption, correct?
Adoption of the
Okay.
ordinance, yes. Councilperson De Palma.
Yes.
Councilperson Desai.
I think no, but I want to make a statement. What I found from our planner's report, 2 things. One thing, that landowner, Knapp Brothers, already are abusing the previous approval of the parking. So I think my suggestion to Township administration, that we should issue them violation summons. And I know Knapp Brothers from my involvement in previous time. So they will ignore it. But we still, if they are violating the terms of the approval, we should send a violation and make them appear in a court. I think that's the first thing. My vote no, based upon Township Planner's report of trip generation by proposed 4 million square feet warehouse. It's right there. Ms. Greenberg, when you speak, I never interfere. So this report is printed and I have in my hand, which says proposed trip generation, total of 6,366 per day. If that is going to happen, we are changing the whole South Whole Bridge, because the traffic will use the various artery to go to the state highway or federal highway. And I think that will be a nightmare. You are waiting for accident to be happen. Based on that statement, I am voting no.
Okay. Mr. Desai, do you want, I think she needs to speak to this for you. Okay, Vina, can you explain again to Mr. Desai, please?
Yes, Mr. Desai, I think you misunderstood. We are not rezoning it to allow a 4 million square feet warehouse. The data that was presented is saying that under the current zoning, which is SD5, you could have a 3 million or a 4 million square feet warehouse. There was a study done by a developer who was interested in developing the site with warehousing, and his preliminary traffic study indicated that there would be 6,366 daily weekday trips. We are not proposing to allow that type of a warehouse. The ordinance which is in front of you is to rezone the subject property so that we disallow that type of warehousing.
Yeah, so I would request administration and you, Ms. Sawant, give us that new, what is right now we are thinking that will come there. If 4 million square feet warehouse,
No.
I don't want it.
Can I try again?
So we can wait.
So can I
Sure,
try,
sure, go ahead.
retry? By voting no, you are allowing the warehouse use, potential warehouse or non-residential use. The ordinance that is in front of you is to rezone it for 3-acre single-family homes. The current ordinance allows you to put that huge warehouse or non-residential use.
You are proposing R120?
Yes, that is correct, which will disallow that type of use.
Yeah, if you are proposing R120, I think I vote yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Desai. Oh,
You are changing your vote from
Yes.
no to yes. Okay. Councilperson Garcia.
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes.
Councilperson Pasquitti.
This land was changed, the use was changed. It used to be Raceway Park, and I think if it was still Raceway Park, we wouldn't have this issue. Okay, so things have changed, the land all around it has changed, and we need to rezone, so I vote yes.
Councilperson Walker.
Yes.
And Council President Sohar.
yes.
That is 7 yeses.
Okay, thank you very much. H2. H2, ordinance amending Chapter 10, Traffic, Section 10-19, 7B of the Code of the Township of Old Bridge.
Move it.
Well, wait, no, you got, wait, just wait. Okay. All right, well, okay. Is there anyone here for this reading of the second ordinance, ordinance for second reading?
Did you open a public comment? Did you open the public?
No, I'm going to do that now. Yeah, yes. Is there anyone here who wants to be heard on H2? Seeing no hands, I will close. Seeing no hands, I will close the public portion, go to council. Anyone?
Does anybody have any comments?
Any comments? No? Okay. Someone want to make a motion?
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. De Palma.
Roll call. Councilperson DePalma.
Yes.
Councilperson Desai.
Yes.
Councilperson Garcia.
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes.
Councilperson Pasquitti.
Yes.
Councilperson Walker.
Yes.
Council President Sohar.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Ordinances for first reading. FR1, ordinance adopting the Waterworks Road 2 plan for the 2 parcels, Block 6303, lots 9 and 10, located within the Runyon Study Area. Do I have a motion?
Councilperson Pasquitti. A second.
Second.
Councilperson.
De Palma.
Roll call. Councilperson DePalma.
Yes.
Councilperson Desai.
No vote.
No.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Councilperson Garcia.
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes.
Councilperson Pasquitti.
Yes for the investigation.
Councilperson Walker.
Yes.
Council President Sohar.
Yes.
6 yeses, 1 abstention. Public hearing set for June 13th, 2023.
FR2, ordinance amending Old Bridge Township.
Yes.
Ordinance amending Old Bridge Township Code Chapter 250-50, entitled Accessory Buildings of the Land Development Ordinance. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Pasquitti, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Roll call. Councilperson DePalma.
Yes.
Councilperson Desai.
Yes.
Councilperson Garcia.
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes.
Councilperson Pasquitti.
Yes.
Councilperson Walker.
Yes.
Council President Sohar.
Yes.
That is 7 yeses. Public hearing set for June 13th.
FR3, ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge amending Chapter 250 of the Code of the Township of Old Bridge, entitled Old Bridge Township Land Development Ordinance by amending 394 entitled Sales, Holiday, Christmas Tree Sales. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Desai, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Roll call. Councilperson De Palma?
Yes.
Councilperson Desai?
Yes.
Councilperson Garcia?
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli? Yes. Councilperson Pasquitti?
Yes.
Councilperson Walker?
Yes.
Council President Stohar?
Yes.
7 yeses, public hearing set for June 13th.
Next will be our consent agenda.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Next will be our consent agenda. I'd like a motion to move in second, and then I will ask for separations.
Move it.
Second.
Just one moment, we just want to see.
Check something.
It came right from the packet, so I'm assuming this is the one that's in there.
Who moved it? Who moved it? Thought I did. Right, and then who seconded it?
Are you kidding? No, it was a minute ago. We'll do it again.
Something on the consent agenda.
She did. I thought you did. Yeah.
We get like a
See,
crisp, high definition
I am
picture
going
of
to
that.
tell them if they keep this up, I'm going to have him lead the meeting. It's too much talking, like Brian used to say.
It's the water. Showing the roads.
second ordinance. This was on Friday. Earlier than that one?
No, it's before this one. Because I just sent the second ordinance, so I amended that one second. So it's, this one before.
That's the accessory, then this one was.
That's it. From the effective date of the ordinance, right, that's the right one, this is the wrong one.
Okay, so should we make an announcement or should we bring it back for introduction at the next meeting?
We have to continue. It's gonna be one by the time they make it. I mean, if you make amendments to it, it might be substantive. They do, they moved to introduce, it's wrong. Madam President, on the last, I just noticed on the last ordinance, there was a version that I had amended that apparently did not make it into the packet.
Okay.
And those amendments were discussed with the planner and our zoning officer. They're not, made it more concise. So this particular one would not be the correct version that was just introduced.
Okay.
What we may want to do is do a motion to rescind the introduction of this particular ordinance.
It's FR, which one, FR?
We're on FR 3.
Okay, I just want to make sure, so the public's listening, FR3.
So, and then what I would do is, we can move to introduce the FR3 as amended.
Okay, all right, so a motion
I'll
to,
make a motion to rescind FR3.
Second.
okay, Motion by Mrs. Walker, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Do a roll call.
Roll call. Councilperson De Palma.
Yes.
Councilperson Desai. Councilperson Garcia.
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes.
Councilperson Pasquitti.
Yes.
Councilperson Walker.
Yes.
Council President Sohar.
Yes.
So here are the amendments. If you look at paragraph G, as written, it says that the amendment was, except that any existing location that has been previously permitted in the past 5 years may continue to operate. In discussing that with a zoning officer and our planner, it just seemed to be too long of a period. So what we did was we reduced that to 2 years from the effective date of the ordinance, right? And the reason why it's 2 years is that, let's say there was a year that I don't know, somebody had a problem and they were sick or they were missing or something. So it gives them a freebie year, but they still have, so it's 2 years, and then also it has to be, so long as the location, it continues to be approved and does not lapse for more than 2 consecutive years. So it went from past 5 years to 2 years, and the other change was, wait a minute. In paragraph L, after the word plants, the following was included, shall be, in paragraph L, shall be permitted to be offered for sale. Then in section 394-2, paragraph G, after the term tree blankets, the following was inserted, shall be permitted to be offered for sale. And then 394-2P, it reads 30 days prior to, it had, the language said, to the occurrence of the national or religious holiday. Since it's the sale of Christmas trees, I tied it to December 25th. So it reads 30 days prior to December 25th of each year. So those were the amendments that were made. So I think at this point, Madam President, you can, if you would make a motion to introduce the ordinance
As amended?
as amended.
Okay, yes. Okay, so we need now a motion for FR3 as amended.
I'll make a
Madam President?
motion.
Okay, so motion was
Can I
made by
ask a
Mr.
question?
Pescetti.
Can I ask a question before we vote? Oh,
Mr. Pasquitti, and second.
say second.
No, Mrs. Walker made the motion,
Second.
and second was Mr. Pescetti. Okay, there we go.
Roll call vote. Councilperson De Palma.
Yes.
Councilperson Desai. Councilperson Garcia.
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli. Councilperson Pasquitti.
Yes.
Councilperson Walker.
Yes.
Council President Sohar.
Yes. Okay, next will be our consent agenda. I'd like a motion and a second to bring it forward, and then I'll ask for separations. Move it. Second. Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mrs. Walker, and now we'll go for separations.
Councilperson De Palma, any items for separation?
No, thank you.
Councilperson Desai. Councilperson Garcia.
None, thank you.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli.
At this time.
Councilperson Pasquitti.
No separations, thank you.
Councilperson Walker.
No, thank you.
Council President Sohar.
No, thank you.
So we are taking a vote on the
Entire,
entire consent agenda?
right, C1 through C6, please.
Roll call for the entire consent agenda. Councilperson De Palma. Councilperson Desai. Councilperson Garcia.
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes.
Councilperson Pasquitti.
Yes.
Councilperson Walker.
Yes.
Council President Sohar.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Discussion, transportation, pro rata share. Good evening, Mrs. Shapiro.
Thank you, Council President. Council, unfortunately, I was supposed to be here tonight with the new Transportation Pro Rata Ordinance. There was a document that was prepared in 1980, which stipulated a calculation for developers to contribute to transportation and drainage pro rata on proposed developments that come in front of our Planning and Zoning Board. So if a developer was to propose something and they needed to do off-site improvements, but they couldn't for whatever reason, there would be a document that gave us permission to assess a fee for transportation or for traffic improvements and for drainage. The drainage pro rata actually goes away because of stormwater management regulations that NJDEP has put forth. We've adopted a stormwater ordinance, so your net increase in stormwater runoff that comes off your property post-development is supposed to be reduced by the stormwater management criteria that DEP requires on every property greater than an acre or an increase in impervious cover of 0.25. So that's why the transportation pro rata ordinance that we're going to put forward to you at the next meeting is only stated as transportation and not transportation and drainage. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Vina Savant for reviewing the entire document, for working endless hours between our consultant, environmental resolution, and really pushing the document forward. Without her, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you. So it's a big monumental task to look at the entire town, to look at the zoning, to look at the land use, to look at the total build out and come up on what improvements are necessary for our infrastructure, not just for the zoning that's, in South Old Bridge that we were just talking about previous, but for the entire town-wide look. So to take that picture and to develop a formula for that. So she was working with Environmental Resolution, who was our consultant, our traffic consultant, TPD, and they had come up with a really good document. I'd like a chance to review that document. That's why I'm asking you for another month. But I just wanted to bring that conversation to you. I didn't want to blindside you with a first reading at the next meeting, but just so you're aware. I think you should rest assured that Vina and I, when we're reviewing applications in front of our Planning and Zoning Board, do not rely on the calculation from 1980. We strongly encourage our developers to do the off-site improvements because that document calculates something to the year 2025. So that dollar amount that's calculated in there is not enough to get that, off-site improvement constructed. So what we do is we encourage our developers to do the off-site improvements in lieu of contributing a dollar amount. And so we've been very fortunate that our developers in town have really worked with the township and have put forward the infrastructure improvement. With that said, if there's any questions, I'll take them.
We'll be bringing ordinance next meeting for.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that, and thank you, Vina. And that was good before, too.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you guys are doing great. Appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Nicole. Thank you, ladies, both, really. God bless. Report of the Township Clerk.
I just wanted to make a statement that we are still looking for poll clerks for the upcoming primary election. Anybody who is interested can reach out to the Township Clerk's office, and you'll be directed to the appropriate party. That's it.
Anything else? You're good? Okay. Yep, okay. So I need a motion to accept her report.
Second?
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Peskin.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Yeah.
No.
She's going to take. I'm telling you.
It's okay, don't worry.
Report of the attorneys. Report of the attorney.
Yep, report of the attorney.
On the report, Madam President.
Administrative report, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Council President. Administrative report for May 9, 2023. Item number 1, and this is an important one. Cottrell Road utility work from Phillips Drive to Spring Hill Road, nighttime operations. Utility relocation work associated with the Cottrell Road Improvement Project between Phillips Drive and Spring Hill Road will continue at night from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. beginning on Monday, May 8, 2023. Weather permitting for 3 weeks. Traffic will be open on both directions, alternate the traffic flow. Expect delays and plan alternate route. Please direct questions to Middlesex County Residence Engineer at 732-887-9683 or Middlesex County Office of Engineering at 732-745-3283. Council and residents, please note this is a Middlesex County road. It's a project by Middlesex County, not by Township. So that's why we are asking you to call county offices. Item number 2, second quarter tax payment. Tomorrow, Wednesday, May 10th, 2023, the tax office will be open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. because it is the last day to pay taxes without interest or penalty. Payment received after May 10th will accrue interest back to the statutory due date of May 1st. Item number 3, Automotive Career Day. The Public Works Department attended Automotive Career Day at Old Bridge High School on April 26, 2023. Public Works employee met with nearly 200 students interested in pursuing a career in the automotive industry. It was a highly successful event, and we look forward to attending future endeavors. We were invited. I think Councilman De Palma had sent me an email. We immediately took it upon ourselves, communicated with the school, and our head mechanic attended with a gift. Everybody was interested, so it was a good event. Item number 4, Spring Lip Collection. Spring Lip Collection concluded in all wards on May 5, 2023. If your leaves were not picked up, please contact the recycling department by emailing recycling@oldbridge.com or calling 732-721-5600 extension 6107. Item number 5, Earth Day Cleanup. Mayor Henry's Clean Team would like to thank our volunteers from Earth Day Cleanup on Saturday, April 2023. Together, they cleaned up over 175 bags of garbage and bulk items from our roadways and parks. Thank you to the following group for making it a great Earth Day. McDivitt K Kids and YMCA of Old Bridge, Madison Park School PTA, Old Bridge High School German Honor Society, Girl Scout Troop 82114, Movement Dance Center Parents Association. Item number 6, Parks and Recreation Summer Program. The Parks and Recreation Summer Program brochure is now available online. Registration for summer classes as well as half-day summer camp and Camp Robin Summer Camp will start tomorrow, May 10th at 6 p.m. For more information, please visit oldbridge.com/recreation or call 732-721-5600, extension 4999. Item number 7, Old Bridge Soccer League and Old Bridge Girls Soccer League merger. Old Bridge Soccer League and Old Bridge Girls Soccer League will merge into one league that accepts both girls and boys. It will have a new name and will create new bylaws. Both leagues will make an announcement to their current participation about the merger to expedite the process. Item number 8, Memorial Day Parade. On Monday, May 29, 2023, Old Bridge Township will host its annual Memorial Day Parade and ceremony. The parade will kick off at 9 a.m. from Memorial Elementary School, proceed down Lawrence Parkway towards the waterfront, cross over Route 35, and loop around Shoreline Circle before ending at Memorial Park in front of the Lawrence Harbor Fire Company, where the ceremony will take place. Refreshment will be served after the ceremony. We are excited to announce that this year's Grand Marshal is Corporal Armando Sasso, who served in the United States Infantry as a medic in World War II from 1943 to 1946. In addition to being Grand Marshal, Armando will be turning 100 years old this August. We congratulate him. Item number 9, Old Bridge Acknowledged Telecommunication Dispatcher. Our Old Bridge Township 911 telecommunication dispatchers first point of contact for the first responder. Often they are calm during a storm. Tonight we acknowledge them for the following best response practices and correctly prioritizing emergency situation during the year. We thank them for their commitment and service. Item number 10, and this is another important one, new polling location for 2023 election cycle. A new polling location has been approved for Ward 2, District 7 for the 2023 election cycle. It is located at the Plaza Grande, 1200 Falston Circle in the main ballroom. Letters will be sent to all households that have registered voters in that ward and district. If you have any question, please call Township Clerk's office at 732-721-5600, extension 2200. That concludes my report, Council President.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Shah? Okay, seeing no hands, I'll ask for a motion to accept.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Pasquini, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Roll call. Councilperson De Palma?
Yes.
Councilperson Desai? Councilperson Garcia?
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Councilperson Pasquini?
Yes.
Councilperson Walker?
Yes.
Council President Sohar?
Yes.
7 yeses.
Public comment on any subject matter for a maximum period of 3 minutes. You're going to give you,
Yep. Hold on one moment. The public comment portion of our meeting is to allow the public to bring to council's attention their concerns or comments. This section is open for any topic or items in the consent agenda. In accordance with NJSA 10:4-12A and the Old Bridge Rules of Council, the council asks the public to limit their comments to 3 minutes or less. Only one member of the public shall approach to speak to council at a time. The council will respect the public's time by refraining from any comment until the speaker is finished with their allotted time. Should be further noted that the public comment portion of our meeting is not structured as a question and answer session. If a member of the public has questions they seek answers to, an appointment can be made with the corresponding department's office during regular business hours. The township clerk will regulate the time during the comment portion of our meeting.
okay, thank you. Good evening.
I'd like to preface my remarks by mentioning a few of the organizations I've been involved with over the course of a lifetime. The Schiller Institute, the LaRouche Organization, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and many other various volunteer organizations. We here in Waretown have effectively turned our weapons into plowshares by the redevelopment of the Nike base. In that vein, I am asking you to support, I have a copy of Resolution HR 2014, I think. It is called The act may be cited as the Return to Prudent Banking Act of 2023, introduced by Honorable Marcy Kaptur, Republican, Bonnie Watson Coleman, the Honorable Bonnie Watson Coleman is a co-signer of the bill. I have, and effectively what this would do is separate banking, and it would be, if this passes, we could find the money, the trickle-down effect for what we need to do for infrastructure in this country. So I'm going to put it before you. People can educate themselves. I'd also like to mention my oldest friend that I knew, Amelia Robinson, the first one over the bridge in Selma, Alabama. and she supported this bill over the course of a lifetime. She lived to 111 or so, and I would like you to consider the effects that this would have on the economy. There have been various resolutions passed over the years, different towns, county governments, yada, yada, yada. So I believe you're all intelligent enough. I'd like to put this forward to you. I would like to ask the council to pass a resolution, perhaps. This is a copy I'd like to give you. And perhaps with this, we can go up the chain to force our leaders to,
Sorry, ma'am, that's your time.
yeah, you got it, then we can, force our leaders to come to a peace negotiation between the Ukrainians and the Russians. Get it on the table. Get them. Pardon me.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Good evening, everybody. Several months ago, I'm not sure exactly the date, I didn't check back, I asked you guys to bring forward a resolution discussing against the power plant that's being planned to go up in Keensby. I know a copy was sent to the township clerk, and I was distributed, I'm sure she's nodding, so they get distributed to the team. What I'm really hoping that you guys are going to do is actually read the resolution and bring it forward for discussion publicly and perhaps even pass it. Because what this is doing, this new power plant, the plan is to double the amount of pollution that will be entering the atmosphere in the surrounding 10, 20, 30, 40 miles, just however it flies. That is going to it's doubled from the 5 other power plants that are in the area. So one power plant is going to be 5 times as dirty, basically. Now, I'm not really asking for much. It's really right now, Middlesex County has a D rating. It was an F rating. I'm not sure why I went to a D rating by the American Lung Association. But again, I'd really, really hope you'd bring this resolution forward. Council President, it's in your hands too. I hope you'd consider it. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Council, I just wanted to let you know that that resolution that Ms. Joknowitz is talking about, we received on June 9th, and I forwarded it out to all the
that
council
long ago?
members for anybody who is interested in going back to research, or if you need another copy, I do have it.
I'll send a forward, yeah. I didn't realize it was that long ago. Wow, time flies when we're having fun. There you go. Please read the resolution and consider bringing it forward for discussion, public, otherwise. Thank you.
Okay, we're good. Anyone else in the public wish to be heard this evening? Seeing no hands, then I'll close the public portion and ask for a motion to adjourn. No.
We need to go into executive session for
You-
matters of personnel.
Right, you need a motion, you have a resolution to adjourn into executive session, discuss personnel matter.
Make a motion to executive
Adjourn to
session?
go into executive session
Is there, yes.
to discuss the
Are
personnel
we
matter.
returning?
No, we're not.
Right. Just want to make it clear to
Yes,
the
no,
public.
Council
Okay?
comments?
Can I have a motion?
No council comments? No council comments tonight?
Do you want council comments?
No, not particularly.
No, I think we're good. All right, then everybody has.
Only the attorney. If you're asking my opinion, sure, why not?
Okay. All right. So,
Make a move to adjourn and go into executive session and forego the council.
Councilperson Paskiddy?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Councilperson Walker?
Walker.
Roll call. Councilperson DePalma?
Yes.
Councilperson Desai. Councilperson Garcia.
Yes.
Councilperson Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes.
Councilperson Paskiddy.
Yes.
Councilperson Walker.
Yes.
Council President Sohar.
Yes.